Okay, it is now 6 o'clock. We do still have a couple of people signing in, so we'll give it just a sec before we get started. I do thank you all for joining us tonight. Here it is December 2nd, 2021, for our quarterly update on the NC-12 Rodanthe Bridge project. I'm going to ask that you mute your microphone. If you're calling in on a phone, you'll notice if you're dialing in online, you're probably already muted. We ask that you keep your webcams off for a better presentation appearance due to the bandwidth issues sometimes. If you are on the computer and you find you have an issue, you can always call in. There is a phone number and an access code shown. If you wish to submit a comment or a question during the meeting, you can do that at any time, but please use the chat box. You could also call, if you're on the computer, you could also call in and leave a message on the project line. I will be monitoring that as we finish the presentation. If you leave a message there, the message will be transcribed and I will read it into the record as we move through the meeting. Hey, tonight we're going to do an introduction of the Ncdot staff, a review of the past update meeting questions and responses, provide an up-to-date project update, and take additional questions and comments. Your Ncdot project crew on this project is Sterling Baker, the division engineer for Highway Division 1, Pablo Hernandez, your resident engineer and project engineer for Highway Division 1. Byron Kyle, who's with our design build unit, and he is your project engineer. And I'm Diane Wilson. I'm a senior public involvement officer with a group that has a very long name. They call us PICSVIZ, Public Involvement, Community Studies, and Visualization Unit. And I'll be your facilitator tonight. First, we're going to go into a review of the September 2, 2021 update meeting. At that meeting, we presented responses to questions that were submitted at the June 3rd meeting. And then Pablo presented an update on the project status. Now, responses to the questions that were submitted on September 2nd will follow. The first question we received was, will parking be permitted in the cul-de-sac at the south end of the project? Ncdot has requested a permit modification to the planned turnaround at the end of the roadway near Green Lantern. This would allow better turnaround room at the end of existing NC-12. Ncdot has talked about the modified cul-de-sac, and parking is a large concern. So the idea is no parking will be allowed in the cul-de-sac and certain other areas. And this will be by ordinance, so it can be enforced. Okay, currently Ncdot is not aware of a name having been selected for the bridge. That is a question that has come up quite often, and I will tell you I've been monitoring the bridge naming committee's agendas, and I have not seen it show up yet. Oh, I'm sorry. Caller 9, if you would please mute your microphone. I'll see if I can. But there's a bridge naming policy and application that are available on the website. And if you just go to this connect.ncdot.gov/municipalities, that will actually take you to this page on the right. And you'll see right here on this right-hand side are honorary designations of state transportation assets. And you'll see the policy, then there's an application form, a character certification form, and then there's several others there too. But if you'll go there and get those forms and get them filled out, it tells you where to mail them back in. And at this time, as I said, we're not aware of a name having been selected for the bridge. Okay, short and sweet. So we'll move right into Pablo's update for today.
Thank you, Diane, for introducing everybody and setting up the meeting and getting everything situated. And good evening to all of our attendees. Glad you could join us for this update. I think these virtual meetings have been very helpful because it's allowed a lot of non-resident or non-in-county people to ask questions as well as hear what's going on with the project. So with that said, we'll start off with our standard slides where we kind of show some completion percentages. Right now we're at 95% complete, and again that's using the number of structural components that it takes to build a bridge kind of as the measurement tool. It's a quick, easy way to gauge the amount of progress that has been completed. So just for reference, at our last meeting in September, we were at 88% complete as far as the structure. Expenditures, as of our last payment cycle, which was November 24th, we've paid out just under $152,500,000. And as the notes on the screen show, that includes the design, permitting, and some claim settlement issues that took place at the beginning of the project. Again, with that claim settlement, our adjusted contract value, total value, is anticipated to be in that $155 million range. Next slide, please. Again, as I do with the normal introduction slides to gauge our progress, this is a slide that we always think we're never going to get there, but we're there as far as some of the major components of the structure. All of the piling have been installed, all of the girders have been set, and all of the deck spans have been cast. And the deck is the roadway surface that you would actually drive on. So those are the highlights of the completed items. And if we go to the next slide, just kind of give you a quick rundown of the other items that require some significant effort to complete, but nowhere near the same level as driving the piling, casting the decks, and those type things. So the remaining items, we've got 13 of 25 steel expansion joints that have been installed. We've got just under 19,000 linear feet of concrete barrier wall. Those are also called parapets or concrete railings that are on the side of the bridge. So we have about 7,000 feet more to go. And then a new item I wanted to share with the group is the texturing that we do to the actual driving surface. We've got 480,000 square feet to be textured. And what that involves is using diamond blades to cut grooves transversely into the bridge deck. And so again, those are just kind of the highlights of our remaining items for the actual structure. Just kind of getting into a little bit of the details of what we're doing. Right now, a lot of work is taking place removing the work trestles, cranes, and platforms, for our temporary work bridge. Part of this process will include erecting a crane on the bridge deck to dismantle the last crane. The only other way to dismantle that last crane would have been to reinstall all the trestle components and walk that entire assembly to either the north shoreline or the south shoreline, and then use a different crane to remove that. So instead, contractors elected to erect a crane on the bridge deck where it's been an engineered procedure so that we can remove the last of the components for the work trestle. We're hoping that all of these components for the work trestle and as well as the accessory equipment will be removed by the end of January or early February of 2022. Next slide. As I showed earlier of some of the remaining items, casting of our concrete barrier rails is to begin this coming Monday, December 6th, with the goal to be completed by Christmas for the holidays. And so what that means is approximately 26 spans on each side of the bridge that will be casting that barrier rail. And once we get that barrier rail cast, that will also allow us to then install the aluminum, what we call 2-bar metal railing that creates a bicycle-safe environment that will be mounted on top of that concrete barrier rail. While that work is taking place with the installing the concrete, casting the barrier rails, installing the 2-bar metal rail, we will also be contractor and working with Cape Hatteras Electric Cooperative, will begin installing a hanger system, conduit system under the bridge for the electric power and fiber optic utilities. Next slide. Back to one of the other remaining items that I highlighted earlier, the texturing of the bridge deck. Right now we anticipate that to begin in early January 2022. Again, as I mentioned, it was over 480,000 square feet, or another unit of measure would be 11 acres of bridge deck to texture. So there's a lot of surface area out there that we need to work on to create that safe driving surface. And because of the various activities that are going to be taking place for the demobilization of the work trestle, conduit hanger system, some other deck work with the expansion joints, we anticipate this texturing to be performed at night. Next slide. And so, as I just mentioned, with one of the other deck activities taking place is the steel expansion joints in the bridge deck. And just as a reminder, this is a similar slide from last meeting's presentation. These expansion joints, we've got about a 5-foot wide gap about every 4 spans of the bridge that will additional concrete and these steel components will be installed. Once the steel components and the concrete are installed, this will essentially give us about a 2-inch wide gap that will allow for the expansion and contraction of the bridge, through the various temperature ranges, and that gap will be sealed with a rubber membrane to prevent debris and, most importantly, drainage from draining down on some of our structural components below. Next slide. I'm sure everybody saw all either saw or heard about the various amount of roadway work that took place at the south end of the project. That work resumed October, and again, it was a significant number of activities. And I guess the highlight of that activity was the paving activities on the remnant portion of NC-12, as well as shifting southbound traffic into the roundabout, or the completed portion of the roundabout, on November 19th. And one of the questions that I've received from the community, and as well as some of my counterparts from across the state, why this traffic shift. And what this does is allow us to complete the roundabout on the east side of that entire roundabout feature. And the reason for that, if we go to the next slide, Diane, in an ideal situation, we would have built the roundabout outside of the existing traffic patterns. Unfortunately, and what I mean by that is that we would have built, say, an on-site detour, but due to the adjacent wetlands, some overhead power transmission lines, and our limited right-of-way, traffic could not be shifted into an on-site detour. So therefore, we have to use part of the roundabout right now for traffic such that we can complete that eastern portion and essentially make a full circle in the roundabout. That work should resume any day now by our subcontractor. And once that roundabout work is complete, then I anticipate some activities to move to the north end of the project, where do some more roadway work and construction of the parking lot at the north end of the project, and that will all be in advance of shifting traffic to the new structure. And again, you'll see this several times in the presentation. Everything is always weather dependent, as everyone knows out here. Speaking of the traffic shift, right now the bridge completion is we're targeting early 2022, such that traffic could be shifted in that February or March timeframe. Again, very weather dependent, and again, work to remove the existing NC-12 pavement and sandbags on P Island at the southern, right near the southern boundary of the P Island Wildlife Refuge, or the S-curves, will begin after traffic is shifted to the new bridge. And again, that's all weather dependent as well. You know, one of the questions was that was asked at the, I believe it was the summer, our June community meeting, and we expanded on what the details at the end of remnant NC-12 will look like. This slide was presented at the September update meeting, and the idea of this, the dead end, so to speak, of NC-12 was such that we would just have a T-shaped intersection at the end, such that vehicles could turn around. We have submitted a permit request to Division of Coastal Management such that we could develop what we call a modified cul-de-sac, as well as install some sandbags at that dead end of the road, and that permit modification by Coastal Management was not accepted. It was denied. We had a good inclination that would be denied because of the proximity of that additional asphalt and those sandbags to the ocean hazard zone and first stable line of vegetation, and so we were already prepared to make a request to the Coastal Resource Commission for a variance, such that we could receive a permit to conduct that work. Right now, it appears that we are on the Commission's February 2022 calendar for hearing our variance request. If we go to the next slide, this is essentially what our variance request would look like if we were able to build it, and so the modified cul-de-sac, thank you, Diane, is the area that she just outlined. It's the red cross-hatched area. Essentially, instead of having a bulb-shaped cul-de-sac, we would just tend to kind of widen the road, a sliver widening, if you will, to the west side of remnant NC-12, and essentially provide a curvature at the end such that it's easier for vehicles to turn around. To protect that north end of the modified cul-de-sac, we would be installing sandbags and a dune that will be running east-west within the NCDOT's right-of-way, just south of the refuge boundary, and that's the area that Diane is highlighted in green for us, or outlined in green for us. And then also, just for reference sake, because again, it also is some questions we received from the community. We will be leaving some sandbags in place, and those are the sandbags that are within NCDOT right-of-way south of the refuge boundary, and those are the approximate limits that Diane has just outlined in orange. So again, we're hopeful that we will obtain that variance to be able to construct that modified cul-de-sac and install those sandbags at the February agenda from the Coastal Resource Commission, such that we can begin that work while after we have shifted traffic onto the structure and are doing the pavement removal and sandbag removal on the Pea Island Wildlife Refuge. And with that, I believe that's all I have to present for tonight. Again, here's my contact information. Feel free to reach out to my office and my staff at any time, and we will do our best to answer your question or address your concern to the appropriate party. So, thank you.
Thank you, Pablo. Along with that, we'll mention that if needed, I think it's going to change slides here. Nope, it's just thinking. There we go. If needed, we would have our next update meeting on March 3rd with a location to be announced depending on pandemic and other things. I'll go to the chat box now, and we have a couple of questions that have come in. One was, will the overhead power lines running through Mirlo Beach be eliminated upon completion?
I don't know the, how should I say this? I don't know the complete answer to that. I know that Cape Hatteras Electric Cooperative has been in discussion with the Pea Island Wildlife Refuge to leave the power poles in place. It's my understanding, but as far as the power lines themselves, I'm not 100%. So I would really recommend that you reach out to Cape Hatteras Electric Cooperative to get that complete answer.
Okay. The second question is, are you putting a parking lot at the north end of Mirlo Beach?
No, we are not putting in a parking lot at the north end of Merlot Beach. We are installing a parking lot for the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, Pea Island Wildlife Refuge, at the very north end of the new bridge, which that parking lot is a replacement parking lot that was bypassed or eliminated at the new inlet area by the Captain Etheridge Bridge.
Great, and I think that answered the next question, which was, what is the parking lot at the north end?
Yeah, and yes, the parking lot at the north end, and I think I may have not added as much detail in my presentation. We're so used to saying north end, south end that everybody knows the lingo, and my apologies for not clarifying it was the north end of the project, not north end of Merlot.
It was such a large group. I just knew we were going to have a lot more questions. We did get one. Will the beach and dunes be maintained in any way after the roadway is removed, or will it be allowed to wash out into the sound?
The NCDOT will not be maintaining the beach or the dunes in the area where the roadway will be removed. It's my understanding that the Wildlife Refuge will not be doing any maintenance as well. So I would anticipate that the roadway, or excuse me, the overwash, the road ocean will be able to do what it wants in that area.
And what is the anticipated opening date?
We don't have a solid date right now. Again, so many things are weather dependent, as well as subcontractor and as well as equipment availability. But we are looking at the February. Ideally, if everything holds, we can see early February as being a reasonable traffic shift date. However, if we get some weather or some other scheduling pieces that just don't fall into place like we would hope, we could be looking at the March timeframe.
We know how the weather can be. So the question is, have you looked at the historical flooding that occurs at Mirlo, such that the proposed east-west dune will channel water or overflow away from or toward the Mirlo houses?
Yeah, we've looked at the various, lots of image and video of the overwash and water drainage from those overwash events, going back to the early 2000s. And, right now at this point, the department's goal is to protect our assets that we have within our right of way, and therefore, that right now we see that the best solution is to install that dune and east-west sandbag line.
And here's a very good question that I'd like to know. Will there be a day before opening that the public can walk or bike on the bridge before cars are on it, as was done with the Oregon Inlet Bridge?
At this time, we're not aware of a community bridge day. We do know that there have been some inquiries to the department, which we have referred those inquiries to the Dare County Public Relations Office. The DOT does not, the Ncdot does not sponsor or promote those activities. We usually we do those in a support role to the requesting municipality. So in this case, since the bridge is located in not in a say a town of Nags Head or Kill Devil Hills, it's in the Dare County unincorporated area. Dare County is the appropriate municipality to make that request to the DOT. And I do believe there are some high-level discussions taking place on that. So
I think that would be wonderful in the spring. So the question is, will the removed roadway material be recycled, and how?
Most likely, the asphalt material will be milled up with a large grinding machine and loaded into dump trucks. That asphalt material, or millings as we call them, are typically taken back to an asphalt plant where they are recycled into new asphalt. And all of our asphalt producers for North Carolina DOT have some form or recipe, if you will, for using used asphalt or recycling asphalt into their new mixes that they provide to us, and it is a huge cost savings to them. So I feel very confident that a very large portion of that will be recycled into new asphalt on other projects.
Great. So the question is the asset Route 12 alone, or does that include the Mirlo houses?
The Ncdot is responsible for our assets, which are the roadways and bridges and ferries. And so I know it may not be a likable response, but that's our response, is that we are protecting our our assets so that we can provide a reliable transportation corridor or a reliable transportation route to adjacent properties.
Cool. Could the residents of Mirlo Beach do anything to protect their community against the ocean?
I'm not sure I'm very qualified to answer that question. Just as a suggestion, I think they need to be in contact with Division of Coastal Management, as well as local representatives with Dare County from the Planning Department.
Okay. S-turns or curve has always been a huge surf spot as far back as many can remember. Where exactly can people park to access the beach for surfing there?
Well, right now, both sides of NC12 in the S curves area, as well as just south of the refuge boundary, are signed as no parking. Those areas have an ordinance in place for no parking, such that law enforcement can issue citations. As far as where they can park, we as the DOT are not providing any of that parking. So it's a difficult and frustrating situation for property owners there. And so again, we as the DOT are not, in this project, are not providing any parking, and it'll be up to the local law enforcement to regulate that.
Okay. Is it known what the speed limit will be on the bridge?
Yes, the speed limit on the bridge will be 55 miles an hour, but it will reduce as you go into the curve, almost that long sweeping curve at the south end of the bridge. It will reduce to 45 and then to 35 as you approach the roundabout once you leave the bridge there at the southern end.
Will the traffic circle be signed yield to traffic and circle?
Yes, there are a number of signs and pavement markings that will be installed as the final configuration, and once traffic is put into the final pattern and the final configuration of how the traffic comes on and off of the new bridge, as well as the remnant NC12. And if I can always provide, if you're interested, I can share a set of signing and pavement marking plans for that traffic circle if anyone is interested.
And that will lead into our next question of where will the crosswalks be for getting from north of the roundabout to the Liberty Station?
Unfortunately, right off the top of my head, I can't recall where the crosswalks will be, but there are openings because there will also be some concrete islands that help delineate traffic around the traffic circle, such that they could accommodate a crosswalk.
Okay, and maybe we can post that. I know that we had a picture of the roundabout, a drawing in the last meeting, and perhaps we can get that up on the website so that people can see that. It's wonderful. Good questions here tonight. What is the expected lifespan of the new bridge?
This particular structure, just like the replacement bridge at Oregon Inlet, has a 100-year design life. That does not mean that we will not have to do anything to it in the next 100 years, but with appropriate maintenance and management activities, we should get 100 years of service out of this structure. And that's in large part to the some of the design techniques and the material selections that went into this bridge.
Okay, when the road closes due to storms, well, where will the barrier go, the exit from the circle to the bridge?
Very good question. I know for my sake, I've been so focused on both the Oregon Inlet Bridge Replacement Project and this Rodanthe Bridge project that I haven't thought about that. Just speaking freely right now, my thought was it's going to depend on the level of overwash and where that overwash is taking place. But most likely it will be to prevent traffic going north on the structure, north on NC12. So it would most likely be at the traffic circle approaching the structure.
Will the new bridge eventually be extended further north up P Island?
At this time, there aren't any plans to extend the bridge. This structure, though, is designed with as we worked with our contractor, this design build contractor, we asked them to design in features such that this bridge could be extended if funding and resources and the warrant or the need becomes available in the future.
While we're in a small lull for questions, I'll mention again that the recording, this video with the audio, will be posted to the project website, typically submitted tomorrow, so it would be up by hopefully Monday morning, along with a PowerPoint, a PDF of the PowerPoint. So we have a question of, so the concept is to kick people off P Island eventually.
Any needs to extend the Rodanthe Bridge or any other bridging in the area is designed to provide that reliable transportation corridor, which is the department's mission from point A to point B.
And a reminder that we are only on an easement through the refuge.
Yes, thank you, Diane. Very good point. We as the department do not own the land, or we just have easement rights to the land that are granted to us by Fish and Wildlife Service.
Okay, so will there be any lighting on the bridge?
No, there will not be any lighting on the bridge.
Pablo, uh, will the rumble strips be removed?
Yes, yes. Once traffic is has been shifted to the new structure, the rumble strips that we installed November 19th, those will be removed.
Okay. What can be done for the residents of Mirlo Beach if there's an inlet cut through the S-curve?
I'm not qualified to answer that question. Again, just speaking freely, I think that's something that has to be discussed with the Division of Coastal Management as well as uh, local legislators.
Okay. Excuse me, let me mute that call. Okay, so when we're talking about crosswalks, will there be sidewalks installed on the east side of the roundabout?
No, there are not any. There are no plans for sidewalks.
Okay. I noticed that we have several people who have just joined us. The presentation, recording, and um, the audio, including the questions that have been asked and answered, will be available on the website tomorrow morning or Monday at the latest if you have missed that. So, will there be enough room for pedestrians or bicycles around the roundabout? Yes.
Yes, there will be. Yeah, the lanes will be 16 feet wide.
And I will say that of all the roundabouts I've seen, most of them are um, a big help to pedestrians and bicyclists crossing areas where roundabouts are. They're pretty friendly. We'll give it a few more minutes to see if we can get any other questions tonight. And as a reminder, if we do have a meeting on March 3rd, an update, if for some reason we have that, these questions and comments will be provided there as well. Oh, the bridge website address. As a matter of fact, I'm going to double check that before I give it to you, but just one moment and I'll pull it up. I think. Okay. Okay, I will put the web address once it opens up. I'll put the web address in the chat box for you. All right. Okay, and that's a rather long address, but you know, if you can click it and copy it. Oops, sorry, that would, let me send that to everyone. Sorry. There you go. It's a long address, but if you go into ncdot.gov, it's on the first page on the priority projects, and you can also Google Ncdot Rodanthe and it will come up. So let's see. Will the road be maintained between the south entrance to the bridge up to the roundabout at Mirlo? If approved. If so, will it have similar priority as maintenance of the rest of 12? And I'm assuming from the bridge up to the cul-de-sac is what you're talking about at Mirlo. And will that have the same priority for maintenance as the rest of NC12?
As far as maintaining the roadway, you know, that remnant piece of NC12 will be a state route, so that will still be under state NCDOT maintenance. Depending on the severity of overwash and demand of resources elsewhere on NC12, that remnant piece of NC12 will still be high in the ranking as far as being able to maintain that and provide access to those properties. However, it's going to be subject to access issues as we have seen, you know, just in the last 3 weeks.
Will there be DOT traffic cameras on the bridge?
At this time, there are no plans to install traffic cameras on the new bridge.
Okay. And again, what will the speed limit be for 12 north of the roundabout?
Right now, that is on the plans is signed to be 45 miles an hour.
Will the bridge allow pedestrian, or bicycle access?
The bridge, yes, it will accommodate bicyclists. It'll have an 8-foot wide shoulder on each direction of travel. Not very similar, exactly like the Oregon Inlet bridge replacement project that has a 12-foot lane and 8-foot shoulders in each direction.
Okay. Apparently, there's a pavement drop down down East Point Drive. Is that going to be smoothed out? Seems like water might collect there since it's not connected to Route 12 with a smooth transition.
Yeah, one of the next steps in our resurfacing and leveling out of that portion of NC12 from Merlo north of the roundabout to the refuge boundary. In some areas, we raised the roads such that there is a little bit of a transition that still needs to be constructed to provide a smoother entrance and exit onto NC12, along with the various residential driveways that are out there. So that work will be ongoing for the next several weeks to make those tie-ins much smoother and more gradual.
Oh, okay. Does DOT have different types of road paint? And is there any that is longer lasting and more high visibility that can be used on coastal roads? It's difficult to see the roadway sides. Those are what we call fog lines at night.
Yes, there are different types of pavement markings that the DOT has in its toolbox, if you will. However, given our coastal environment with the abrasive nature of sand on the roadway, paint does not last very well, just like paint on the side of your house or on your car. If you park too close to the ocean, you do get you do get that sandpaper effect on that painted traffic markings. We have some other markings that are a little bit thicker that are applied, or even some tapes. But then again, when we go to remove sand and water from the roadway, they are subject to peeling up. So it is it is a challenge. It is a battle that we are constantly. Unfortunately, we're never gaining a lot of ground on, or as much ground as we would like, of keeping those pavement markings as fresh as possible. On this particular project, the Rodanthe project, we'll be installing a fairly high-tech epoxy-based paint, very similar to what's on the Oregon Inlet Bridge and the adjacent areas of the Oregon Inlet Bridge. So hopefully we'll get some better durability out of that material.
Are the duck blinds near the bridge still going to be able to be used?
Good question. I know in the past on some other projects that I've had where the Wildlife Resource Commission has evaluated and either eliminated some duck blinds or re-permitted or not permitted those duck blinds. So again, that would be a question for the Wildlife Resource Commission. Randy, thanks for that reply regarding the Dare County Game and Wildlife Commission.
Right. Thank you. I was just talking and muted. Are there reflective alternatives than used if lighting roadways continues to be discouraged?
Yes, there are, with different types of reflectors, whether it be the pavement reflectors that are either mounted to the surface or embedded into the pavement. You may have noticed on NC12, south of the Oregon Inlet Bridge, we're actually have been installing the snow plowable raised pavement markers. Not that we get a lot of snow, but we're getting into a cycle of the amount of sand accumulating on the road. Those raised pavement markers were getting removed, so we're going to a different type of pavement marker that still requires the reflective element to be maintained, but has better survivability. Also, reflectors can be installed on the parapet walls or the bridge railings and which will be part of this project. And then again, it'll just be another element to maintain.
So it sounds like there are a lot of questions for wildlife. So will Wildlife Resources hold a virtual meeting to address these questions? We could certainly put that request into them and ask them if they would be willing to, or at least perhaps address them on their website or something. But we can certainly ask them to do that. Is there an expectation that over time there will be some accretion at Mirlo with overwash not maintained at the S curves just north?
Very good question, and I would have to defer to one of the documents that is on the project website. And Diane added the web address to the project website in the chat box a little while ago. Where I'm going with this is on the project website there is a link to project documents, and within the project documents there is the most recent coastal monitoring report that NC State has produced as part of some of our permit requirements with various agencies. And the trend has been erosion versus accretion at the S curves. However, as we all know here on the Outer Banks, what you think is going to happen may or may not happen all the time. So I would defer to that if you have an opportunity to go and dive into that coastal monitoring report. We're hoping probably in the next 3 months we should have a new updated 2020 report available.
Thank you to all of you that are saying that there is a lot of information here, but that they appreciate the fact that we've presented it. You know, it's our pleasure to bring the information to you whenever we can. When the Mirlo Beach inlet is cut, will the bridge be able to handle the new current?
Yes. One of the design parameters for the new bridge is to accommodate a scour event or an erosion of sand from around the pilings, as well as the force of water in addition to any kind of superimposed wave action on that. So it's designed very similarly to the Oregon Inlet Bridge Replacement Project. That's why if you saw in some of either media pictures or driving in the area, you saw our very, very large concrete piling or cylinder pipe piles, concrete cylinder piles. That's why they're as long as 150 feet for that very reason.
Again, for those who have just joined, I've noticed a few people just came on. The presentation that was made, all of the chat box questions and responses will be available on the project website. But I will say by Monday. Hopefully they'll be there tomorrow, along with a PDF of the PowerPoint so that you can view it and you can listen to or watch the video as well. We'll give it a few more minutes, see if we get any more questions. If not, we'll close it out and wish everybody a good evening and very Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays if we don't see you in the meantime. If we previously submitted questions for tonight's meeting, where might we find the response to those? Could you tell me, did you email those to someone or how did you submit those? I'm not seeing any phone comments on the project website. So if you could tell me where you submitted those, I'll be happy to look for them. And did you email those to Pablo?
I think I'm caught up on inquiries I've received. If I'm not, please remind me.
Great, thank you. That would be good. Well, I believe we have, thank you, Kathy. I believe we've reached the end of our questions for the evening. We've had a few minutes since we had one. Please feel free at any time to reach out to Pablo. You can go to the project website, ncdot.gov/projects/NC12 Rodanthe. You can submit questions there. You can also email them to nc12-rodanthe@publicinput.com, and we'll get those to the project team immediately. Again, we do not anticipate a meeting March 3rd. The project should be finished, but in the event we do, we will have a recap of all these questions, and the video and audio will be online along with a PDF of the PowerPoint presentation, and the video will include all the questions that I have read into the audio tonight, along with responses provided. I thank you for being here this evening. I'm so glad that the group came. We've had some great questions, and again, I'll wish you a Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, and hope to see you soon. Thank you for coming.
Thank you, Diane, for hosting and taking care of everybody. Thank you.